Progress. Welcome to The Initiated Man, the online summit exploring men in right relationship with sex, love, and power. My name's Gayatri Beegan, and I'm your host. Since 2012, I've been devoted to guiding men into a deeper, more embodied experience of their sexuality, not only as a source of pleasure, but also as a force for vitality, intimacy, and awakening. Through these conversations with some of the most insightful voices in the fields of leadership, sexuality, relating, and personal growth, we're exploring what it means to be a man in today's world, beyond performance, beyond shame, and beyond outdated models of masculinity, so that you can live with greater authenticity, connection, integrity, and aliveness. And I'm joined in this conversation by Hugh Newton, and we're going to be talking about the courage for men to love. Welcome, Hugh.
Thank you, Gayatri. Lovely to be here.
Mm. So, before we step into the conversation, let me just tell you a little bit about Hugh. Since 2022, Hugh Newton has led the Sovereign's Journey, a training and development programme dedicated to supporting men in their growth, leadership, and authentic expression. With more than 25 years of experience, he's been deeply engaged in men's work since his initiation into the Mankind Project, where he now serves as a co-leader and facilitation trainer. Also, as a certified shadow work group facilitator and coach, Hugh specialises in supporting individuals and groups to engage with the unconscious and unlock lasting change. Passionate about guiding men towards authenticity, purpose, and service, Hugh continues to dedicate his life to transformational work. Mm. And I am so grateful for you, Hugh, and the work that you do in the world. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Gayatri.
Mm. So Hugh, you've been leading rites of passage and men's initiatory work for decades now.
Mm.
I'm really curious to know what changes in a man when he's genuinely initiated. And what's the impact of a lack of initiation in our society?
Thank you. Oh, what changes in a man when he's initiated? Speaking mostly for myself, but obviously I've accompanied many men through initiation. And what changed most of all for me was trust. I grew up in a very harsh masculine environment, and I can't say I really trusted men in the depths of my heart. And what initiation brought me was profound masculine company, trust in men, and a knowledge that us men can stand together and heal each other. And that was a huge step for me. I can remember being held by men and having lived in a world where men never even touched each other, to be held by men and to be able to relax and look in the eyes and know that they had me at that moment. They held me. And it was huge. It was huge of a lifetime of doing everything for myself, largely on my own. To join the company and the society of loving men supporting each other to live more fully. It was a vast step for me. And if I'm really honest, it's been the container for my life for a long time now.
Beautiful. And I think, you're speaking to something which is a kind of, there is an undercurrent, I think, in culture and society where men fear other men. And the kind of individualization of the world we live in mean that many men don't get that support. And so many men are feeling lost and confused about what is in the world, what is their place purposefully in society. And when they feel separate from one another, I think it completely disconnects men from the web of life, essentially.
Yeah, we've
So,
been taught, just to say, we've been taught to compete. We're taught to compete with each other, and rather than support love and cooperate, we're taught to compete, and that's not a place that brings us close.
mm, yeah. So could you say a bit more? I think we live in a world where the rites of passage for men have largely fallen away, but because we are creatures who want to make meaning out of life, it's something that men seek in a way in their life, and then it's often coming in more unhealthy models. And I think partly the rise of the manosphere, for example, has come to fill the cultural vacuum for men, where they don't have the container of men holding one another. They don't have those markers of becoming an adult in life. Could you say a bit more about what you experienced or what you've seen where lack of healthy initiation is missing for men?
Well, I have a slightly different angle on it because I spend all my time in rites of passage and initiation. So for me, it's hugely alive. And I know so many men who've been initiated. And the thing to remember is initiation's only the first step. This is a journey. And when us men are initiated, we step through the door into our greater being. And alongside other men, we have an opportunity to go deeper, get to know ourselves, and actually look at ourselves really clearly and take the steps we need to take to be who we truly are. So, my experience is that there's loads of places for male initiation, and there's lots of interested men who are stepping into this arena now because actually it's coming out of the shadows and it's becoming much more acceptable and mainstream and well known. And that's because it's very deeply effective. I changed
Mm,
my initiation, I changed my life completely and set off on a journey into myself, which has brought me happiness and joy and abundance and effectiveness. And that all started with my initiation. And so, yeah, I hear that there isn't much initiation about in our society, but there is in mine, and it is there for men who want to search for it.
mm, beautiful, beautiful. And so the specific topic that we want to explore in this conversation is around love. And I know you are somebody who is deeply dedicated to the heart. Um, but having spent many years working with men, what do you see as the particular struggles that men have around giving and particularly receiving love?
Well, for myself, I grew up in a somewhat bleak environment of men where love simply wasn't considered an important aspect of our lives and wasn't on the surface in our lives. And I was actually programmed by a very patriarchal society to be hard and to work hard and to fight hard if necessary and to do what was needed to protect. And a lot of the gentler side of my being, which brings me to availability to love, was suppressed and hidden, particularly my emotions, which apart from anger pretty much disappeared. And to be in relationship, us men need our hearts, we need our love. We need to be able to love another, and something that's also extremely difficult for men, we need to be able to receive the love that's offered to us without
Mm,
disappearing, without running, without going into some sort of unhealthy behavior. And most of us men have been taught that the only opening to love we have is sex, really. And so men can get a bit obsessed with sex where they're actually seeking love and depth and unity. And so a man, to be truly available in a relationship, in my judgment, needs to do a lot of inner work to peel off his conditioning that left him somewhat unavailable to love, so he can bring his heart to the fore and love in a true and profound way.
Mm, mm. And so, yeah, I think often what we don't realize is how our upbringing, our conditioning kind of puts us into a particular costume or armoring in sense, particularly for men, where there's this idea that they need to man up, that they need to present in a particular way in the world, that this is very masculine and manly. And what is often the cost of that is, yeah, the tender feelings and the vulnerability. And at the same time, I know from any men that I speak with, whether they're clients or my friends, there's a kind of belief that, yeah, love makes you vulnerable and that this is dangerous for a man, that he loses himself, he loses his power, he loses his strength. Um, what's your, and so there's a kind of paradox here. What would you say to a man who fears accessing his vulnerability, his more tender expression?
For me, a man's ultimate power lies in his heart and lies in his love. And of course, there's vulnerability. Can't skip over vulnerability. To love someone and to love truly is a vulnerable place. And there's enormous strength in it, and there's enormous love in it. And for me, us men change ourselves from our heart outwards. And so the first vulnerability, truly accept myself and accept my own love. And then another vulnerability is to accept the love of another and to accept that if I'm going to enter a relationship, my heart can be broken. But if I'm truly myself and I have a solid foundation of my own being, then that's my choice. And it's a brave choice. It's a courageous choice to step to love. And for me, love is our ultimate fulfillment and our deepest joy and the best possible place to lead life from. So if a man's seeking true happiness, then love and vulnerability are the way to go. And I just say to men, it's a tough place. It's a tough choice. It's going in the opposite direction to how we've been um, conditioned. And it's a long walk, walking through that conditioning to see it and notice it and put it aside so we can be truly available to love.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm really feeling that the sense of protection that we, like all beings actually, but we're specifically talking about men, but the sense of protection around the heart, like, oh, I never want to feel hurt. I never want to feel weakened by hurt. I don't want to meet that vulnerability. But again, then the cost is not being able to access the potential of happiness and joy and fulfillment in life. And I can't help but wondering if part of that first step, if a man, speaking particularly to the heterosexual men, as I imagine that will be most of the audience who are kind of drawn to these particular conversations, I feel like men put a lot of they put a lot of emphasis of love onto a woman, right? To the object of their desire. As you mentioned, this often gets very tied up with sex. Like sex is the only real gateway to
Mm.
many men to a wider range of feeling, sense, and expression in
Mm.
themselves. But I'm wondering if part of the journey for men is a bit like who they say, I mean, I don't think this is completely true, but they say, you can't love another until you love yourself. But I think part of what is pointing to is like, if I don't have appreciation and respect and a sense of myself, it's very difficult to receive that love from another. So I wonder if learning to love the company of men and to receive support and love from men can be one of those first steps for men on the wider journey of love. Is this something that you've observed in the work that you do?
Mm. And it's a very beautiful first step. Really beautiful first step to come into the company of men and to be safe enough to do our own individual work so that we have a foundation, a foundational place where we can operate together and turn inwards to heal ourselves and be there to heal each other. That's the first step. You mentioned about loving ourselves. For me, I do not think there's any true happiness for a man unless he really, deeply, and truly loves himself. I don't see how true happiness is possible for a man who doesn't love himself. Life's painful. Life was painful for me when I didn't love myself, when I had real deep doubts about myself. And healing that and and getting to know myself and loving myself, that's the first true step towards relationship and towards vulnerability. If I don't love myself, then I look for the woman to love me, and my being is based on her loving me and filling that hole, filling the hole of no love for myself or not true love for myself. And that's not fair. Honestly, it's not fair for the woman, and it leads to grave difficulties in relationship. If a man wants to truly step into a relationship, it's beautiful for him to step into love of himself first, and then he's free to love, and he's not demanding that love from a woman where he hasn't got it for himself. And sadly for men, there's an additional thing that I find that happens a huge amount in relationship, is that all of us pretty much, I've never met anyone who hasn't, has a wounded boy inside of us, a wounded boy who was denied love in the first place in the way he longed for it. And it may have been much worse. He may have been neglected as a boy or even abused as a boy. And that wounded boy is still inside us, longing for love and care and acceptance. And the difficulty a lot of men have is that in relationship, they end up with their wounded boy desperately in front of their woman, looking to her for love, looking to her for healing, for wholeness. So the woman ends up being in relationship with a desperate boy rather than the beautiful man, the beautiful mature man who she's longing for. And she may try and heal his boy for a bit, but she can't. Only a man can heal his own boy and turn his boy's focus into his heart for healing so that he's free to love his woman rather than being hindered by a desperate boy between him and his love.
Mm, mm, mm. And, coming back to that theme of initiation and rites of passage, my sense is that in a culture that has largely lost these, one of the struggles for men is that they don't get the experience that takes them from the boy to the man. So many men are out in the world doing a mad thing, but inside there's still that wounded little boy, and they've not had the chance to evolve essentially inside. Yeah. So I know that the pathway that you take men on is called the Sovereign's Journey. Could you perhaps say something about stages of that journey for a man who wants to evolve in himself?
Thanks, Gayatri. The first step on the Sovereign's journey is the first weekend. It's 5 weekends, and the first weekend's called our King's Initiation. And on the first weekend, we initiate our King. and bring him to the center of our world. And by this I mean our healthy, true-hearted, deeply loving King who holds us and is here to evolve us into the man we choose to be from our heart. Sadly, we've got three kings. We've got two wounded kings uh, on either side of our true king. We have a very depressed king who crumbles and struggles in the world and tries to lead us from that place because the king's wound is I'm not good enough. So if I came to believe that about myself as a child, I'll bring it into my adult life. And if I'm not good enough, I either struggle or I'll go the other way and go, I'm fantastic, I'm amazing, I'm brilliant, look at my projects, look at my life, look how wonderful I am. And if it's still from a place of I'm not good enough and I'm desperately trying to prove myself to the world, it's a painful place as well. And so what we do on the first weekend is we initiate a man into his true, heartfelt, heartful king. And then on all following weekends, we support his king to come into direct experiential contact with many other different parts of himself and to love and evolve them out of their past into how a man chooses to be in his life, in his maturer years. And so it's a rebirth. It's a rebirth out of our conditioning. And the whole of the rebirth is facilitated by a man's sovereign. And in this sovereign's journey, uh, we facilitate a man to come to true love of himself and all that he is.
Mm, mm. So I love this sense, if we're speaking about these archetypes of the king, but there's this acknowledgement, and it's something that I see so much is that there's a kind of pendulum swing often from one extreme to the other. So either it's like absolute enough, I'm I'm collapsed by shame and self-doubt and I can never measure up, or the kind of grandiosity and overinflation, but neither of these are the rightful truth of who someone is. And so there's a third space where there's the initiated king, the sovereign, who can hold these different places, and that a man can navigate from that connection with self. Um, that sounds just so significant because what I see so much is that we tend to flip flop one place to the other, which doesn't usually serve. And again, if I look at something like the teachings of the manosphere, it's very much about this pendulum swing. Men are encouraged to believe themselves to be incredibly superior, but what
Mm,
is usually exploited is the sense of not enoughness to
mhm,
start with. And
mhm.
in this way, it often doesn't become a very healthy or mature model for a man to follow. Yeah. So what are the kind of key attributes then of the sovereign? How does a man know when he's really sitting in his sovereign self?
The first key attribute is knowing oneself. There is no truly being sovereign if I do not know the different aspects and the different parts of myself, particularly the ones that are in shadow. If I don't know these parts of myself, they run around under their own energy without any acknowledgement, and in many ways they mess up my life. I've got to bring all of me, my sovereign has got to bring all of me out of shadow and love and bless uh, the parts of me that are messing up my life, but contain them. and get their agreement that they'll only come out in my life with permission from my king. Heal the younger parts of myself and draw them out of their early pain into my heart and hold and love them for the rest of my life. Uh, Encourage and support and get into direct communion with the healthy parts of myself that really do work and build and support those up. I've got to get a grip of the terrain of myself first if I'm going to be truly sovereign. If I don't know myself, I can't be sovereign because there's too much of me that is unavailable to my consciousness. So that's the
Mm.
first part. And then the second is to go on the beautiful journey of being a true sovereign in the world, operating out of love, first of all, loving myself, loving the people around me, bringing peace to myself and bringing peace to the world, uh, allowing my joy to bubble up as the wellspring of who I am and living a life of joy and really turning to service, moving from my I to my we and turning to service and looking at the whole world I live in and operating and how can I serve my world in a really beautiful way and how do I bring my world to a better, more loving place. And that is really the job of us men and why we're here in the first place. I'm here to create a world of love. That is my endeavor. And I spend all of my working and much of the rest of my life concentrating on bringing a world of love in. And I can only do that from a place of sovereign because this is the only place in me that is truly orientated towards love. I've got lots of other parts of me who have their own effort to make, but it's not always around love.
Mm, mm. And yeah, I feel really deeply touched by this positioning of being here in service to love and to the heart. And I think as the kind of structures of society have changed and places where men might previously have found that sense of purpose and service, like being part of the church, for example, or even being part of an organized workplace that happened in real life rather than mediated through a screen. It's like these are places where men would have experienced a sense of purpose by being in action in those places. And these are kind of disintegrating in society. And so consequently, I think many of the roles that men would have fulfilled previously have also been disintegrating. And this has left many men feeling less purposeful, less sure of their place in the world. Yeah. And something that I know I've always deeply appreciated is not just service to life, but also a sense of service to the feminine. And by that, I don't simply mean women in their body, but to that aspect of life, which is not about the rational, logical, structured part of life, but something less definable, perhaps more expansive, more intuitive. Could you say something about your journey with the feminine and what that's brought to you?
Mm. Thank you. And again, as even as you say it, I just feel how opposite that thought is to how I was conditioned. Yeah, I was conditioned to protect women, but that's it. I was conditioned to not be feminine in any way whatsoever. And actually, it was dangerous as a boy to be feminine because it would entail a lot of bullying. And what I have realized that first of all, if I'm going to be service to the feminine, I have to get to know and open a space inside myself and make space for the feminine in me, my gentler side, my more relating side, uh, make space for my feelings, make space for my love of the earth, of creation, make space for my love of the feminine, and strengthen and give this place a safe home inside myself. That's the first place. And then, as a man, part of my effort in the world is to hold that safety and emphasize that support of the feminine in life. And for me, that's profoundly the earth and all the creatures we share our world with. But it's also profoundly for girls, for women, it's profoundly for holding safety so that a woman can stand up in herself and deliver her precious gifts to the world, because we need the gifts of the feminine profoundly at the moment, maybe even for the survival of our planet. We need the feminine. And for me, my effort is to stand in support of the feminine, to allow the feminine to bring her beautiful gifts to the world, so that we are humanized, that we move to love and care, we move to non-aggression, we move to um, taking care of our world rather than exploiting our world. We move away from lots of the rational into the feeling. I work with Celebration of Being a lot, where they work with a feminine organization working to support and heal the masculine as well as the feminine. And I hold space for the women to be the leaders. I'm not the leader there. I'm in support of the feminine. It's taught me so much. I love to be in support of the feminine and to stand as a supportive man, encouraging women to bring their own beauty and their own qualities and their own natural wisdom way into the world, because I feel we need it.
Beautiful. And I really appreciate that like wider connection to the love of the earth, not or the body of the earth, so not just the body of woman, the feminine, but
Mm,
this wider body of which to which we are all connected. But the story of separation
mm,
suggests that we are disconnected, and this brings such unhealthy extractive relationship to
mm,
it. Yeah, yeah.
mm.
So, just the kind of final question that I have for you, if every man listening could leave with one understanding about love that would fundamentally change his life, what would you want that to be?
Ah. I don't have an easy answer about an understanding of love. My answer would be to encourage men to do their personal work to find anything that reduces or restricts or stops their love. And to say to men that being in the heart of love and being the heart of love oneself is the most beautiful place to live in the world. And I'd also like to say to men, I know so many amazing women who would love to be with a man, and they have chosen not to enter any relationship anymore with a man who is not doing his work, because they've found that being in relationship with men who are not self-aware does not work well, and they don't want to go through it anymore. And I say to men, let's step up, men. Let's step up, and let's step up into our heart, and let's step up into the heart of love. And a beautiful way of doing that is to find the company of men, do your own work with that company of men, and then later with the company of women, if that's right, and find everything inside yourself that blocks or stops your heart and stops your love, and remove those restrictions and encourage your heart to come to the fore as the guiding force that leads your life, and you will lead a beautiful, loving life, find a wonderful partner who reflects the love that's in your heart. And I offer that as a way forward for men.
What an inspiring message and vision to share. Thank you, Hugh. So, could you
Yeah.
please tell people how they can connect with you ongoing?
Thanks. Well, have a look at the Sovereign's Journey website, sovereignsjourney.co.uk, and come and join us if you are interested in bringing your heartfelt sovereign, full of love, to the center of your life and rebirthing yourself into the truth of who you are now and peeling away all that you are not. Come and join us, and we work in a small group over a whole year, and oh my goodness, the love and the care and the beauty amongst us brothers working together is so deep and so profound. So if you're looking for a harbor of love and a place to grow your self-awareness, then come and join us.
Hmm, beautiful. Thank you so much for being here in this conversation with me, Hugh.
Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you for this. Thank you for all your love and care of men. I know of so many men who have been blessed by your love.
Mm, thank you.